Hey, it's Lisa from Inspired Wellness Tucson. Today I wanted to give you a thorough demo on how to do a coffee enema. Coffee enemas are game changers. They're incredible for pain relief. I normally am able to knock out a migraine in 2 hours doing an enema instead of suffering for 2 to 5 days. It also helps with rosacea, acne, eczema, depression, anxiety, low motivation. There are so many times that I've felt like crap, did a coffee enema, and felt like totally refreshed and a brand new person. We are purging toxins out of the liver, purging toxins out of the intestines, and you feel so much better afterwards. So you can't use regular coffee for a coffee enema. Regular coffee is often contaminated with mold, and you don't want to be mainlining that right into your guts. So there is a lot of options online. There are a lot of options online for enema coffee, which is certified mold-free, and it's less roasted than regular coffee, so you have more of the palmitic acid and caffeine that is doing the work of cleansing your liver. So I want to show you the gold standard of enema coffee, which is the most intense, it's a little advanced, is the ultra light gold roast coffee. Look at that color. It's like the color of peanuts, and it doesn't smell like coffee at all. It has kind of a beany smell because it's like, oh yeah, coffee beans. So these are hardly roasted at all, are actually not roasted. But again, these are the highest in caffeine. So I'm very sensitive to caffeine. I can't drink caffeine or it'll give me a migraine. So the most I ever use of this is 1 level tablespoon. Even a rounded tablespoon of this can give me a headache from too much caffeine. So if you are sensitive to caffeine, I would recommend using a regular enema light roast, which is gonna look and smell a lot more like regular coffee. And when I do this type, see, it looks like coffee. When I do this type, I actually use 2 level tablespoons. So for a beginner, you can even start with 1 level tablespoon, see how you feel, kind of dip your toes in, and as you get more comfortable, once you're comfortably doing 2 tablespoons of this one, you could try maybe doing 1 tablespoon of this one the next time. So I have brought 1 liter of water to boil right here. And once you've got a nice rolling boil, you'd want to put your coffee in, and we're going to cook it with the lid off for 3 minutes. And that's basically just cooking off any oils. So we'll set the timer and let it go pretty high to have a nice rolling boil. So while the coffee is cooking, you're not just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, you're going to be making green juice. This is important because when you do a coffee enema, in addition to purging toxins, you do end up losing electrolytes like potassium. And it's really important that you replenish those. When you see mainstream docs online saying, don't do coffee enemas, they're dangerous, they're talking about if you just did a coffee enema and nothing else, that's not good for you because you're gonna throw your electrolytes out of balance. So while your coffee is cooking, you wanna be making green juice. And I recommend using celery. If you use a whole head of celery, which this is a chopped up head of celery, the whole thing, it is like 1,100 milligrams of potassium. That's a great dose of potassium. So I like to mix it in with juice of half an organic lime and a nice chunk, a handful of cilantro. If you hate cilantro, no problem, you can use parsley instead. And if you don't want to use the lime, lime and parsley wouldn't go well together. If you're using parsley, I would skip the lime, but you can add in like 2 carrots, maybe a beet, and the sweetness of the carrot or beet is going to balance the bitterness of the celery. Sometimes people add like 1/4 to 1/2 of a green apple. That's okay, but you don't want to go adding a bunch of fruit because it ends up being really sugary. And we're trying to maximize potassium, but we don't want to maximize sugar. So if you can do just celery, lime, and cilantro, that's ideal. So a lot of us don't have juicers, so I wanted to show you how to make the green juice using a blender and then a nut milk bag to strain it. So first you'd put in a cup of filtered water. You could also use distilled water if you wanted to. And then I'll put in the lime. You could chop it up after peeling it, but it's quicker and easier to just juice it. And also for the cilantro, I'm gonna rinse it off real quick. When you're cooking with cilantro for food, a lot of the time they tell you to pull the leaves off the stems. You don't need to do that for this purpose because it's all getting blended. Normally that's just when you're cooking, the texture of getting a bunch of stem isn't quite so nice. You just chop off the yucky bits of the ends of the stem. But the stems have a bunch of micronutrients, just like the leaves. You can toss that all in there. And then put in all your celery. So normally when you're cooking the coffee, while it's boiling, you're washing stuff, chopping stuff, getting it all in there. And it usually ends up being really good timing that by the time the coffee is fully done cooking, your juice is fully ready to go. And our timer. So now that the 3-minute timer has gone off, we're gonna cover it, turn the heat down to like a medium-low. You still want it to be simmering, but not a crazy boil. And I'm gonna set another timer for 15 minutes. So, as it's slowly cooking away, we are going to make our juice and we'll speed this part up. So you can get a nut milk bag on Amazon. I've bought them in the past that were the perfect size and they folded over, but sometimes they run out of those on Amazon, so you just get the next best thing, and this one works well enough. So this is a really thick slurry that you would not want to choke down. It's too much fiber, too pulpy. So you would pour it into the bag here. And then we're going to cinch this up. You can wrap it around to make it a little more secure. And then we're just gonna squeeze, and we're squeezing out the liquid and making it so that the pulp stays inside the bag while all the liquid has drained through the bag. And it's nice and fast when you're just doing celery. It's a little slower if you're using beet or carrot because there's more fiber to wrestle with. But this is going through pretty fast. It's almost all the way done. And yeah, so with this, this is gonna make about 24 ounces of juice. And typically, the people who wrote the ultimate book on coffee enemas, the Gerson therapy people, recommend drinking about 3 to 4 glasses, which is like 24 to 32 ounces of juice per coffee enema. I like to break the enema up into 2 smaller batches, so it's not quite as much liquid to all hold inside of your gut. So I might drink half of it after my first round, and then drink the second half after I finished with the second round. So once I have finished with that, pour the strained juice into a bottle, and then I'll just stick this in the fridge so it's ready for me when I'm ready for it. And then we're just gonna rinse this out. In brewing, we are going to filter it into this pitcher. And you have a couple of different ways of sifting it. So they don't normally recommend using a coffee filter, because a lot of the time those are bleached or whatever. If you just have a regular sieve, a strainer, you can use that, but this is gonna be too coarse and you could still get coffee grounds coming through. You don't want coffee grounds in your tubing. So you could take a nice, clean, organic cotton cloth, put it inside, use it like a cheesecloth, strain through that. Or you can, if you buy your little kit through the Pure Life Enema Company, they sell these purpose-built stainless steel strainers that are ultra, ultra fine mesh. It's designed for straining coffee for enemas. So you just pop it on there, filter the coffee straight through that. So we're gonna pretend that this has been cooking for 15 minutes. And as we strain it, you see, even though I'm straining it through the little holes here, I'm still getting coffee grounds. So it's really nice to have that ultra fine mesh strainer to make sure there's not going to be any coffee grounds in your enema. And normally, if it's brewed for the full 18 minutes, that 13 minutes with the lid off and then 15 minutes with the lid on, you're gonna lose some volume. So I normally start with a full liter and it ends up being a perfect 32 ounces. Because I cooked it a little less time for the purpose of the demonstration, it's a little fuller right now. I have made ice cubes out of distilled water, because again, we want to be using distilled water for any enemas that we do, just to make sure we're not getting impurities like pesticides and heavy metals in our enema. And also, given the fact that coffee can deplete potassium out of your body, you can, on Amazon, Pure Life Enema Company also sells this potassium compound powder. I'll usually put between a half a teaspoon to a whole teaspoon in, stir it around, and then that way you're not losing as much potassium, you're actually taking a little potassium in. Of course, you still want to drink your green juice afterwards. So obviously this is really hot, steamy coffee. This is way too hot to put straight in your body. So what we're going to do, since I like to do it in 2 different batches, we're going to pour 16 ounces from this pitcher into the enema bucket. And again, it's way too hot to use, we know this. So that's 16 ounces. So usually it takes 4 pretty good sized ice cubes, 4 to 5 ice cubes to get it to the right temperature. So we're gonna stir it and then test it. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to cool the rest of it much. I'll put like 1 ice cube in the rest of it. But since it takes a good 15, 20 minutes or so to take in the enema, hold it, excrete it, that usually gives this batch 2 the perfect amount of time to cool to just the right temperature. Of course, you'd still want to test the temperature first, especially if you don't end up holding this for the full amount of time. You may need to add another ice cube or 2 to batch 2, but typically I just cool batch 1 to like a bathtub temperature, or maybe between lukewarm and bathtub temperature. So since I've dissolved my 4 ice cubes, let me test it. Still a little hot. I'll take a 5th ice cube, melt that in there. But yeah, I've had many times that by the time I get around to batch 2, which was way too hot earlier, it ends up being just perfect temperature, because that 15, 20 minutes was exactly what it needed to cool down. So to move to the bathroom, and then from there I'll show you how to do this one, which it's a little bit different than the water enema as far as how you take this and hold it in. So I'll see you in the... Alright, welcome to the coffee enema setup. If you watched the water enema video, you'll recognize this is the same nest setup where we've got the pillows inside of clean kitchen trash bags with a layer of a bath towel wrapped around them. You can have this inside of the bathtub, or with my bathroom, it works best to have it right outside the little toilet room, since I've got this lovely rack here to hang things from. So, just like with the water enema, you'd want to lubricate the tip of the speculum before inserting it. So you take your unpetroleum or Vaseline or whatever you're using. Remember, don't just use oil, because it's going to absorb too quickly and it's not going to give you proper lubrication. This is going to be sure to protect you, and then you can have your little strip of paper towel for afterwards once you've taken it out to wrap the tip up. So as you can tell, I've got this tube that is full of air. There's no coffee in there yet, so we need to prime it before you take it in. So we're going to hang this in its place, hold the tip of the speculum over the toilet, release the clamp, and you see that coffee traveling down the line. That was perfect. There's no air bubbles. It's ready to go. So you would lie down, insert the speculum, and I'm going to put the bucket down and show you your position for this one. You're going to be in a different position for coffee than for water. So with the coffee enema, the big purpose is to cleanse your liver, which is on the right side of your body under your rib cage. So you can take it in straight on your back, and then when you're done taking it in, close off the clamp, pull it out. You would discharge the little bit of extra that's in the tip into the toilet, and you can wrap it, set it aside, and then once it's all in you, you would roll onto your right side. So you want to be fully on your right side. And if you have like an injury where you can't lie on your right, you could lie on your back, but you don't want to be on your left side. When you're lying on the right side, what happens is there's a continual passage of circulation from the intestines to the portal vein to the liver, and every 3 minutes or so, liver and gallbladder are purging out the old bile. The bile is going to hold a lot of toxins, and normally the body just recycles the bile. So that's why you can feel so sick and just not get better if you've been exposed to toxicity. So when you're purging the old toxic bile, you want that coffee to be in contact with the liver, so you need to be on your right side for that to happen. So because you have that cycle of liver and gallbladder purging the yucky bile, it's dumping it into the intestines, which is going to give you the feeling of like, ooh, I gotta go. So this is a perfect opportunity to practice mindfulness meditation, breathing exercises. I like listening to either sound healing music or meditation, podcasts, things like that, that just get me in the right headspace to just be in a state of observing. Like, isn't that interesting? I'm feeling urgency right now. Oh, I'm feeling that. That means it's working, right? It's purging. And just breathe a little more, see if you can hold it. Now, if you've only done this a couple times, this is your first time, and you're like, no, really, I gotta go, by all means, go. Don't torture yourself. This shouldn't be stressful, but it should be a hormetic stress, meaning just enough of a stress without pushing you too far that it actually makes you stronger and makes you feel better. So, as you know, when your body naturally experiences a little bit of discomfort, there's a natural mechanism that your body starts producing pain-killing substances like endorphins and dopamine, and different chemicals get released that actually make you feel really good. So if you can bear with the moments of discomfort, you're going to end up being rewarded by moments of feeling fantastic, kind of like a runner's high. You can definitely get that runner's high feeling during a coffee enema. And if you're having a migraine, it's pretty amazing. I've had many times of doing this during a migraine, that after the first few moments of like, ooh, I gotta go kind of feeling, all of a sudden like, oh, the neck pain is diminishing. Oh, my head isn't pounding anymore, right? Because that body is producing those natural feel-good chemicals. So bear with the waves of slight discomfort, and you will definitely be rewarded. So toward the end of your 15 minutes, or as long as you can hold it, 12 to 15 minutes is recommended. But again, if you're new at this, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, hey, it's great. You're working toward 12, 15 minutes. That's good enough. You can get up, go to the toilet, release what's ready to release. You can drink your green juice. I also recommend modified citrus pectin, Pectisol C. It's very high in potassium, and it helps bind and flush out toxins. So that can also help you feel great. So once you've done that, you can check the temperature on round 2. If you went the full amount of time, it should be perfect. If it's a little too hot, just run back to the kitchen, get some more distilled water ice cubes, cool it to the right temperature. Like, really stick your finger in, make sure it's a comfortable temperature before you take it in. And again, it should be between tepid to bathtub temperature, no hotter than bathtub temperature. And then you would just do round 2 exactly like you did round 1. And again, lie on your right side as long as you can. And then afterwards, finish up your green juice, take a bath. It's also great to do some dry brushing. You might find that if you dry brush your body, which helps with lymphatic flow, you might suddenly need to go again. The body is going to keep wanting to get rid of toxins. So you may have a couple more trips to the bathroom after you finish round 2 of just your body continuing to release toxins as it feels ready. So give yourself a couple hours. I usually give myself 2 to 2.5 hours if I'm doing coffee and water enema, and I just give myself 2 hours from start to finish if I'm just doing 2 rounds of coffee. So enjoy. I hope it works for your pain. I hope you find radical improvements in your skin texture. You might notice acne is gone, rashes are gone. You might notice weight loss is easier. So I'd love to hear what kind of benefits you experienced.